morning, students. I welcome you yet to another lecture on social context of educational planning. I hope you are all staying safe at home. You're maintaining your social distancing, washing your hands regularly, and then staying at home. Today's lecture, we will be looking at social groups. We will be looking at social groups. After that, we will now consider the relationship between education and society. The relationship between education and society. The essence of all these things we are doing is to establish the social context under which education is planned. The essence of all these things we have been examining all this while is so that we'll be able to establish the social context under which education is planned. Today we'll be looking at social groups. After that, we'll now examine the relationship between education and society, so that we'll be able to establish whether any relationship at all exists, which of course forms the basis of planning education for every society. So the first question that we'll be asking here is, what is a social group? What is a social group? For us to understand what a social group is, we must first of all understand what does not constitute a social group. For us to know what a social group is, we must first of all understand what does not constitute a social group. Now, a social group can be defined as a group that consists two or more persons who share things in common, have common affinity, have a sense of belonging, and interact on a regular basis. A social group can be defined as consisting of two or more people who interact more frequently and share a common identity and a feeling of interdependence and a sense of belonging. So what makes a group to be a social group is that the group must have been together for a very long time. They stay together, share things in common, have a common identity, share common values, have common aspirations, and interact more frequently among themselves. Now, if that is what social group means, then let's take a look at these other examples. At a bus stop, 10 persons are gathered to catch a bus. 10 persons gathered to catch a bus at a bus stop. They are more than two. Therefore, can we call them a social group? Sociologically speaking, they cannot be classified as a social group. Reasons being that they don't have anything in common. The only thing that brings them together there is the purpose of catching a bus, and thereafter they disperse. So such group, at most, you can call them an aggregate. Such group of 10 persons who are gathered to catch a bus, we cannot classify them as social group. At most, we call them an aggregate of persons whose purpose is just to catch a bus and disappear. So they don't have anything in common. They don't have any lasting relationship. Then we have a group of students, like the educational planning students, master's students in educational planning, who are taking a course in educational planning. can we call them a social group? We cannot call them a social group, because what brought them together is the course they are taking. What brought them together is that course they are taking. Thereafter, they will all disperse. At most, you can make reference to, we were once classmates, we did this course together and all that. So they cannot be classified as social group. At most, we can call that group a category. Group of students who met in a course of study and continuously take their course together within that period, and thereafter they will disperse. Those group of students, we classify them as a category. So we can differentiate between an aggregate, a category, and a social group. A social group have more lasting relationship. They have more lasting relationship and interact on daily basis. They have things in common. They share things in common. So that is why they are called social group. In a more detailed form, let us look at specific characteristics of the social group. For any group to be called a social group, there are certain basic characteristics that it must possess. And what are those characteristics? They include the following. The characteristics of a social group include the following: status. For a group to be called a social group, members of that group are ascribed with status. They are ascribed with status. For example, in the family, which is a social group, the primary social group, and the family, which is a primary social group, people that form the family as a social group have statuses to occupy. For example, we have the father. That name, the father, is a status occupied by the head of the family. So he's known by that name, the father. Even though he has his real name, but by status, he's called the father of the house, the father in the family. We also have the mother. We also have the children. Even among children, there are other social status again that they occupy. For example, the daughter, the son. So these are positions occupied within a social group that makes us to understand the role they play within that social group, the role they play vis-a-vis the other individual members of that social group. So statuses can either be ascribed or achieved. Statuses can either be ascribed or achieved. Ascribed social status are statuses that we acquire by birth. We acquire by birth. For example, the status of a prince. The status of a prince. The status of a boy. The status of a girl. A chief, a prince. These are positions that are acquired by birth. The position of gender. All these statuses are social statuses that are ascribed. Now, social statuses that are acquired are those ones that you can achieve. You can achieve. For example, an accountant, a teacher, a headmaster, a pastor, a priest, a professor, a provost, a manager. All these are achieved statuses. So in every social group, there are two kinds of status that one can have, either acquired or ascribed, as I have described them. Now, for each status that one occupies, there is a role he plays. So in every social group, there are roles to be played by members of the social group. There are roles to be played. That's another characteristic of a social group. roles. So your status as a father, confers on you the role of a father in a social group. Your status as a mother confers on you the role of a mother in a social group. Your status as a daughter confers on you certain roles as a daughter. Now, all these roles that members of a given social group perform vis-a-vis their status are learned through the process of education. When we say the process of education here, it could be formal or informal. All of them are education. So, in the sense of education, as we are talking about it here, it's not strictly in the sense of schooling. It's education that society offers the individual in the society. So it includes both formal and informal. So the statuses one acquire in the social group he or she belongs is a direct result of the role the person plays in that social group. So we can now say that the role of a father, the role you play as a father, is as a result of your status in the family, and that role you play as a father is also in line with other person's role. So for you to play the role of a father, there must be other statuses that are occupied by other persons, that your role must also be played in line with that other roles. For example, your role as a father makes meaning because somebody is playing another role as a mother. You can't be a father without somebody playing the role of a mother. You can't be a husband without somebody playing the role of a wife. So your role as a husband is performed because there is a wife. So if you are not yet a husband, you cannot play the role of a husband. So these are the characteristics of social group. Now, your role as a teacher is because there are students. So you see, you play your status as a teacher. There's another status as a student. So your role as a teacher is performed in line because there is somebody playing the role of a student. So where there are teachers, there must be students. Where there are medical doctors, there must be patients. Where there is a pastor, there must be church members, in that order. So the role you perform, the role playing, involves social relationship, in which one role is placed against the other role. So in every group, individuals relate in terms of roles. In every group, individuals relate in terms of roles. So where there is a doctor, like I said, there will be a patient. Where there is a trader, there will be a buyer. So that's how society functions, and the individual members of the society need to understand this and imbibe them so that society will be able to keep going. So we can say that social roles help in regulating and organizing people's behavior in the society. Social roles help in organizing people's behavior in the society. So they provide the means by which certain tasks are accomplished. They provide the means by which certain tasks are accomplished in the society. So within the family social setting, it is no longer in doubt who will play which role and who will play that role. When there is need to pay school fees, we know who should play that role. When there is need to have children, we know who should play that role. When there is need to take care of medical, we know who to play that role. So role playing helps to define who performs what tasks in the society, and these roles and tasks are learned through the process of education. So that is why social group is important in the educational planning process. All right. So having said that, we will have to classify social groups. Social groups are classified basically into two. Social groups are classified basically into two. So we have the primary group and the secondary group. the primary group and secondary group. The primary group of social group is the group that interact more frequently and have more affinity. There are groups that interact more frequently and have more affinity or closer relationship among the members. So examples of such group is the family. That is why the family is always called the primary social group. So family is a very good example. We have the pair group. Pair group is another example. We have age mates and your close friends. They have more lasting relationship. Remember that most of your friends that you have since primary school, they are still there. They are still there for you. Family remains your family members. So when anything happens outside, these are the group you come back to meet. You know, there's emotional attachment. If, for example, you lose your job, it is your family you go back to. If you have marital problem, it's your family you go back to. So any emotional upset or emotional problems or trauma that we face, it is our immediate family, which is the primary social group, that we fall back to. So that's why they are called primary social group. They are more formalized and more close relationship. Then the other is the secondary group, the secondary social group. The secondary social group is a group in which members engage in much personal, goal-oriented relationship. The essence of the group is that such group has goals that it aims to achieve, and members there, all of them pursue that simple goal, and thereafter they disperse. For example, the school. In the school, you are either employed as a teacher or a student. Within the period you work there or you school there, after that you go. More other people comes in again. You can only make reference to such group. I was a student of so place from so time to so time. Although the group continues, but it does not have a more permanent relationship because people come and go. But in the primary social group, it's a more permanent arrangement where you are always a member there. When you retire from the institution where you're teaching or working, you can only make reference that I worked here from so time to so time, while other people have taken over the place. So those kind of group, we call them the secondary group. Alright, so there is also, these are the two major groups, but there are also other classifications of social group. What we call the in-group and out-group. The in-group and out-group. The in-group is a group in which an individual belongs to. It's a group in which an individual belongs to and feels a more sense of identity. In-group is a group you belong to and have a more sense of identity that you belong here. You have a sense of responsibility that you belong here. You share common things and strongly believe in the values and aspirations of shared by that group where you belong. Now, the in-group is that group where you belong. You want to protect them. You always talk about them. While the out-group is the group you don't belong to. You don't like them. You don't speak good of them. And you see them as competing with you, with your own group. For example, members of the Catholic Church and members of the Anglican Church. So members of the Anglican Church are in group in Anglican Church, while the Catholic Church are in group in the Catholic Church. But the Anglicans will see the Catholics as out group. That's the group they don't belong to, and they see them as competing with them. In the same way, the Muslims and the Christians. So Christians are in group in the Christian faith, while the Muslims are in group. But for the Christians, the Muslims are out group, and the out group see the other group as competing with them, and therefore they don't speak good about themselves. So that's how society functions. In every society there is in group and there is out group. In group are those groups that share things in common and see the other group they don't belong to as in competition with them, and will not always speak good of them. One will always speak good of his religion. You see what happens in society today. The Christians and the Muslims. Muslims, they are always at each other's neck. One believing that his own religion and his own mode of worship is better. Even among Christians, there are also splinter groups, and members of each group believe that their own group is the best against the out group, the ones they don't belong to. So this creates competition among the groups in society, among the social groups in society. It has both positive and negative influence in social cohesion. It has both positive and negative influence in social cohesion. It can result in unity. Those who belong to a group see themselves as one, and it unifies them. Try to unify them, make them reason together and all that. For example, when a Nigerian meets a fellow Nigerian outside the shores of Nigeria, they see themselves first and foremost as Nigerians. So that's try to unify them. You also see that when Nigeria is playing football with other countries of the world, all Nigerians unite in football to say that we are Nigeria should win. By that time, all other factors, whether you are Yoruba or a Hausa or a Muslim, a Christian, is dropped. We are now Nigeria facing another country football team. You see us praying that God should please let our group win. So that's what is called in group. So here it tries to unite us, but when it is used to discriminate and say you are not my brother, you are a Muslim, you are not my brother, you are a Northerner, you are not my brother, you are a Yoruba, you are not my brother, you are not an Igbo man, and all that, that's the negative side of the in group. It creates room for nepotism. It creates room for social vices. It creates room for racism, creates room for classism, creates room for tribalism, nepotism, and what have you. So that's the danger aspect of the in-group, out-group social grouping. Now, one group will feel that they are superior to the other. One group will feel that they are superior to the other. But in all, these are what forms the integral part of society. They are all integral part of society that one need to know, that anybody who is studying social context of educational planning need to understand and know, so that you know how education is planned, to take care of the peculiarities of each of the groups, to take care of the peculiarities of each social groups, and how we can create an understanding among the groups for social cohesion. All right. Then the next type of group is what we call reference group. Reference group. Reference group is a group that strongly influences a person's behavior and social attitudes, regardless of whether that individual is an actual member of that group. Reference group is a group that strongly influences a person's behavior and social attitudes, regardless of whether that individual is an actual member of the group. You may not be a member of a group, but you admire that group. You are interested in what they do, and you want to be like them, even though you are not a member of that group. Take for example, some persons are not Yoruba people. They are not from Yoruba. They are maybe Ikwere or Calabar or so, but they like how the Yorubas behave. They like their dressing. So you see them dressing like the Yorubas sometimes, even when they are not Yoruba people. You see them dressing like the Hausas, even when they are not Hausas. So we call such kind of reference group a group that you like their values. You share their values and want to behave like them, even when you are not a member of that group. You may also want to imbibe their standards, the way they do their things and all that. Somebody might not be a member of Ekanka, but he likes their belief in karma, the way the way they see life. You might be interested in all that. I used to have an ex-friend, you know. There are certain songs he sings, and I say, these are songs that I like. There are certain things he does that I appreciate, even though I'm not a member of Ekanka. You know, the same thing also happened. An ex might like the way certain sects behave and admire their way without being a member of that group. So we call such type of this is a reference group. A reference group. All right. So a reference group help to explain why our behavior and attitude sometimes differ from those of our membership. Imagine an Ikure man dressing like an Hausa man, you know, or Hausa person dressing like an Ikure man or Yoruba person. Imagine the Nigerians behaving like Americans, you know, because we are admiring what that group does, even though we are not members of that group. So we call that reference group. Reference group. All right. So having said that, that brings us to the end of a social group. We have tried to classify social group, interpret them, and explain how they mean to society, their relevance to education. This kind of groupings or characteristics which is attached to social group make us to understand how they function, and then gives us the idea of how education can be planned to capture all the variables in what constitutes a group. We need to learn all this and transmit them to the younger generation so that there will not be conflict all the time. There will be orderliness in society all the time. Now, having said this, we will now look at the link between education and society, the relationship between education and society, the relationship between education and society. Education and society are like Siamese twins. They are inseparable. Siamese twins are twins that are attached. They cannot be separated. So education and society are like that. They are like Siamese twins, and they are intertwined, interrelated, and interwoven. They cannot be separated. You know, they are just like what the Bible describes as husband and wife, cleaving together. Cleaving means something that you can't pull out. You know? So education and society are like Siamese twins. They are intertwined, interrelated, interwoven, and they are always cleaved together. They go hand in hand. All right. So for us to really understand what makes them cleave and what makes them go together, why they are interwoven, we must understand the role of one against the other. We have to understand the role of one against the other. So in summary, we can say that the business of learning how to live in society, the business of learning how to comport yourself in society, is the business of education. The business of learning how to live and comport yourself in the society is the business of education. So understanding how to live in society is what education is all about. If you watch, our behaviors are modeled based on what the society wants, based on what the society expects of us. So you see, the very life you live is not your own life. It's a life you are living in compliance with society values, or else you will go naked on the road. But because society will look at you as a bad man, so you will want to wear clothes. So that's why when you finish dressing up in the morning, you examine yourself in the mirror. Why do you examine yourself? You are looking at yourself. Yeah, I hope my dressing will be acceptable by members of the society. You look at your hairstyle. I hope this style will be acceptable in the society and all that. So everything you do it in accordance. You are doing it in accordance with the acceptable standard as prescribed by society. And those acceptable standards as prescribed by society is what education inculcates in you. You acquire it through the process of education. So that's the relationship between education and society. Let me give an example that will properly explain this relationship. Now, assuming that a child is born, assuming that a new baby is born, and that baby is removed from society and kept where every condition that will make that child to survive is provided. Every condition that will make that child to survive is provided, but that child is denied any form of education. The child will be given food, he will be given water, he will be given everything, but she or he will not interact with any person until that child gets to the age of 20 to bring the child out. You have not brought out an idiot. The person will not be able to know how to speak. He will not be able to know how to do anything. He wouldn't understand what we're talking about. He wouldn't know language. He wouldn't know values. He wouldn't know anything at 20, because no form of education has taken place in that person's life. So that explains what education does to us in society. It prepares us. So everything you think you know today is the direct outcome of education, either formally or informally. Anything you know today, the way you behave, the values you share, the things you believe in, they are all direct result of education. So education and society go hand in hand. So while education tries to transmit the values, the norms, traditions, orientations, and what have you to the members of society, the society also provides for education those values which it transmits. The cultural values which education transmits is provided by society. So without society, education will have nothing to transmit, and without education, those cultural values will not be transmitted. So you see why they are inseparable. The two goes hand in hand. So we'll now take them one after the other and begin to examine the role of one against the other, and then the role of the other against the other. You know. So the entire knowledge you possess today is the direct outcome of what education puts in you, and the direct outcome of what education puts in you is what society provided for education to transmit. So that's the link relationship. So let's look at them specifically one after the other. So the role of education to the society. The role of education to the society. Now this is divided or classified into two. What is called the manifest roles or manifest functions of education to the society. The manifest, that the one we see clearly, the one we see, the role of education that we see that it does to the society. So we call those roles the manifest functions. The one that we clearly see. So what are they? So they are the basic obvious functions that education performs for the society, and they include the following. It may not be limited to the ones I will mention here. They are so numerous, but let's take the ones we can provide for the purpose of this lecture. 1. Inculcation of values and standards of the society. Inculcation of values and standards of the society. The values, the aspirations and standards which every society upholds is transmitted through the process of education. Without education, it is quite impossible. And when we say education here, please take note, I want to repeat it again. It is not only what happens in school. There are people who didn't go to school, but they are educated. So there are different forms of education, as you all know. So all of them is what we're talking about here. Not schooling. Schooling is only an insignificant part of education process. There are people who didn't go to school, but they have learned skills, and they are using that skill to survive. So education teaches you, inculcates in you values and standards of the society. Now, if you don't have those values and those standards, you cannot function in society. You cannot. You can't. If you can't speak your language, you can't function. If you don't dress, if you are naked, people will see you as a mad person. So first of all, for you to move, interact with people, you must dress well according to society standard. Now, in our present society, there is this societal standard that you must go to school, acquire a certificate with which you'll be given employment. The society have said that. So that is why everybody is rushing to school, because that's what society is asking for. Standards. Everybody is now rushing to school. If the society changes tomorrow and say, oh no, we don't want a certificate again, we want skill, everybody will move towards that side again and begin to acquire skill. So every standard that society prescribes is what education tries to give for the individuals, you know, to fall in line with what society expects. Then the second is maintenance of social stability. Maintenance of social stability, solidarity. Maintenance of social solidarity by developing in children a sense of belonging to the society, together with a commitment to its way of life as they understand it. Maintenance of social solidarity by developing in children a sense of belonging to the society. Now, there is no one person today who is not proud of where he comes from. If you are an Ikwere man, you are a proud Ikwere man. You have that solidarity, you like your area. That likeness you have for your area is a direct result of input of education in you. It makes you committed towards where you come from. Now, in our country, Nigeria today, even though a lot of people are crying, and people are crying and, you know, seriously criticizing government and all that, but deep inside all of us, we desire a change. We want this our society to be better, because that is where God has created us. We want Nigeria to move forward, and that can only happen through the process of the education you have acquired. Even though sometimes you may not like your attitude, the attitude of your father towards certain things, but he remains your father, and in real situation you must defend him. So even though our society have some problems, maybe leadership problems, but we are all here and we all remain here. When you travel outside, that is when you will appreciate where you come from. That is when you will know the values that you have acquired. That's when you talk about your country. You remember Nigerians that were treated in China? They were crying back home. You're crying back for help. Nigerian government should do something. They were showing the pictures of how Chinese people treating Nigeria and all that. So you see, every Nigerian in solidarity were able to raise their voice in support of those people in China. You know, so education gives you that value, that solidarity for your people. Then the next one is transmission of knowledge. Transmission of knowledge. Knowledge here means what you know to be true, what you know to be truth, and how you uphold those truths. Now, knowledge is not only acquired in school. I am repeating it. Knowledge is not only acquired in school. Before you came to school, you have already acquired moral knowledge. Moral knowledge through the process of education acquired at home. or within your in-group. So there are basic knowledge people acquire about life, the knowledge of justice, good and bad, knowledge of how to live in peace. Then we also have academic knowledge, the knowledge we acquire in school of how things are done, the academic knowledge you study. Those knowledge that people commit down are acquired through the process of education. From the time of Plato, from the time of Socrates, Aristotle, knowledge had always been compiled, and from time to time knowledge is also refined through the process of education and transmitted. So without education, no knowledge will be transmitted. The society will be static. So see, this is the importance of education to the society, by transmitting knowledge from one generation to the other. So we are here, we learn what the Socratic style of teaching by asking questions. We have learned that, and we are still using it. The Plato principles of education, we are still learning them and transmitting them. So you see, education is very, very powerful instrument for society survival, because it transmits knowledge, and the knowledge that education transmits, we will use it now to better the society. All the improvement you see in society today is a direct outcome of knowledge acquired through the process of education. Think of the transport system, think of the health sector, think of the agricultural sector, think of even the education sector itself. Knowledge has always been refined from time to time. So that's a major role of education to the society. Education also provides the society a means of literacy and numeracy. Literacy and numeracy. You know, there were times in society when society was regarded as what we call illiterate society, the period of illiterate society. Then there was no form of reading and writing. It was through the process of education that reading and writing came in place. So that is the work of education. Education provided that means. So that's another role education plays for society. Again, education inculcates the desired behavior patterns for diverse roles in society. The desired behavior patterns. How you behave, the pattern of behavior that you put up is modeled through education. That is popularly said that charity begins at home. The things you learn from home that models your behavior, make people to appreciate you and say, yeah, this child is well behaved. The acceptable behavior is modeled through the process of education. Now it also has good and bad effects. The process of the transmission of knowledge through education has some good and bad effects. Sometimes education inculcates certain values into your head that you cannot question. For example, religious values. Religious values. Even when most of our religious leaders are exploiting us because of the opium nature of religion, the kind of education that the indoctrination that is put in us through the process of education, we hardly question such authority, hardly question such thing. It's not surprising that a pastor can tell somebody to sow a seed of his salary even when there will be nothing left at home to feed the children, and we will stupidly go and do that in the name of so you see, that's wrong type of education we acquire. It has some damaging effect in our psyche, you know. So that is why in certain areas you may not be making progress, because you cannot question certain authority. because of the kind of education you have acquired. All right. So the next role of education to society is that education provide knowledge and information about new facts and method of doing things. New facts and method of doing things. You know, like in the school subjects. When we were in secondary school, we did admaths. We didn't do integrated science. We did biology. But today, see, the knowledge is, there's more information. We didn't do computer. We didn't do further mathematics and all that. But today, we have new facts that is giving rise to new forms of knowledge, and all that is made possible through the process of education. That is why most of the things you learned in primary school, if you go back there today, they are not learned again. They have been refined and modified. You know, so that's what education does. It refines and modifies knowledge, and because of that, you see, there is always improvement in society. There's always improvement in society. I wonder any family that uses a lantern again, or lamp, the kerosene lamp. I wonder, you know. So there's an improvement. But there was a time when that kerosene lamp was in vogue. I was discussing with my mother the other day, and she told me when the kerosene lamp came out, it was an exclusive preserve for the privileged few in her own time. Only the privileged few use it. How can you afford it? They were using what they call, what in my local parlance they call wechulo. The one that you put, you construct, put rope, put kerosene, and it will be burning and smoking. You know, there wasn't even candle. So so through the process of education, there was an improvement on that, and today we have electricity. We even have more refined forms of light. So all that was made possible through the process of education. As early as the 70s, the bicycle was what was in vogue in society. If you get a picture of Nigerians in the 60s, civil servants in the 60s, majority of them were riding bicycles to the offices. They were riding bicycles, and those were the privileged few in those days. Bicycle. But through the process of education, the transport means was improved upon. We now later had the motorcycle. From motorcycle to cars. Today, cars is everywhere. It's everywhere. And for every innovation and every new knowledge area, it provides opportunity for people to get a skill and get employment. I remember in the 70s, as a growing up child, people will want to acquire the skill of bicycle repairer, because bicycle was everywhere and people were looking for where to repair, but so people acquired that skill and used it to make money. I remember admiring one bicycle repairer in my village. Seriously, you will go there, see queue, people are begging him, please do attend to my own bicycle, you know. But I wonder today whether anybody will want to acquire that skill, and whether those who are still having such skill are still relevant in society, because bicycle is no longer in vogue. The same thing also happens to motorcycle and all that. You see, so as society improves in knowledge, certain skills becomes obsolete, certain knowledge becomes obsolete, and they are dropped, and the more skills are acquired, society keeps going. So that's the role education plays for society. Try to update knowledge and method of doing things. You know, method of farming in the ancient time is no longer the method of farming today. Even the process of education, the process of acquiring education have changed over time. You recall that, I don't know whether there's any school where chalk is used again. You know, we now use the white marker pen to write, and a lot of things have changed. I remember going to school with slate and writing with chalk, but today my children, none of them know how to use chalk. So all that is what education does. It refines and modernizes knowledge. Alright. So education also quickens discovery. Quickens discovery. Through the process of education, a lot of discoveries are made. From the Socrates time till now, we have been making discoveries which has helped society to function, and all that is made possible through the process of education. So education quickens discovery for society. Without education, it will be quite impossible. It will be quite impossible. Some of these discoveries are by intuition, some are by experiment, some are by rational thinking. All of them is what education offers you. Critical analysis, following scientific procedure to uncover and discover new way of doing things. So education also stimulates new inventions. These things are overlapping. Discovery, inventions. Discovery is when something that exists is discovered. Something that exists is discovered. For example, when Mungo Park claimed that he discovered the River Niger at Segu, because they have never seen River Niger before, they claim they discovered it at Segu, a town called Segu. In their discovery voyage, they got to Segu and discovered the Niger. So that's a discovery. When it was discovered that the earth was spherical, that's a discovery. But invention has to do with getting new things, new way of doing things. Invention of electricity. When electricity was invented, the first car that was invented. So all that is made possible through education for society. So these are the roles education plays for society. Apart from this, in the way society is organized, education also encourages democratic participation. When we say democratic participation, we are not just making reference to modern government. From time, even the traditional community, democracy was practiced. Popular opinion, popular view on an issue. Even within the family, you seek the opinion of members of family on an issue, and then decision is taken. So democracy is not just a phenomenon of government. No, it is something that is acquired in the process of education, through the process of education. So even at the modern level, where we now use it as a system of government, it is also through the process of education that it is taught. So you see, over time through the process of education, it is modified. It's modified from one society to the other. The democracy that is practiced in America is not the same democracy that is practiced in Nigeria. Democracy that is practiced in different countries is not the same type of democracy that is practiced elsewhere. So you see, it has been modified through the process of education to suit the conveniences of a particular society. So that's what education does. Education also helps to expand our intellectual horizon. Doesn't keep us in one place. Your experiences are expanded. The things you know about life is expanded. The knowledge you know about things is expanded. So that is why there is a great difference between the educated and the man who is not educated in the real sense of education. I'm not just talking about going to school here. Now in the village, there are people who are really educated. That if you give them community assignment, they will do it and ensure that everybody in that community gets satisfied, and people see them as leaders. So can you compare such people with people you have elected as senators that goes to share money that belongs to every person. Can you compare that kind of people with people who are in government? Their intention of being in government is to see how much they can grab to themselves and their family. So the man who has gone to school is not more educated than the man who have these values. Now, can you compare the pastor who we think is educated religiously, who extorts money from members of the church, to a man who is not a pastor but have feelings for the poor and shares whatever he has with the poor? During this period of COVID-19, how many churches have shared food to their members? Where are those churches that ask people to sow seed? It is now time for them to pay back to their members. So you see, education expands your horizon, makes you to reason, to reason reasonably, not just absorbing anything hook, line, and sinker. Anything they tell you, you believe. Education will give you that wisdom to be able to be rational and think. Not everything you read from book that you absorb, you critically analyze it. Not everything they tell you in the church that you will take, you critically analyze it. Not everything that you are taught in school that you believe in, you think over it, analyze it, take the truth that are there. That's what education does for you. Education is not just making you to go and read what I have taught you, prepare them and pour them back in exam. No, there must be noticeable changes in your behavior, in your character, in your reasoning, for it to be called education. That is what education does for society. Alright. So education is also an agent of upward mobility. An agent of upward mobility. Education doesn't leave you where you are. I still repeat here, whether at the village level, at the traditional level, at the larger society level, education will never leave you where you are. It moves you from being an ordinary boy to an adolescent, from adolescent to a father, from a father, and as you're progressing, it teaches you new knowledge and prepares you to occupy it. So it moves you. Then in the real sense of the schooling education, it's a means of mobility, social mobility. It moves you from one status to the other. Based on the education you have acquired, your status will change. The positions you occupy will change. Education is the only thing that gives you, that satisfies you to occupy certain position in society. Without it, you will not be able to occupy. So the level and type of education you have acquired determines your status, determines your social status, determines where you will be. You cannot be a carpenter and at the same time become a lecturer. No. You can't be a lecturer and become a medical doctor. No. So education moves you and places you where you want to be in society. Alright. Now, these ones we have explained, like I told us, are the manifest functions or manifest roles education performs in society. And I have told us that it is inexhaustive. You can't exhaust it. But so far, those ones are noted. Then let's look at the latent functions. The latent are the ones we may likely not see. We may not see them, but they are there. They are there. Now, through the process of education, education gives the child exposure on about life, and exposes the child to a more diverse circle of friends. More diverse circle of friends. It doesn't limit you to your immediate environment, because you went to school, or because you acquired certain skill, let us just say at the level of lower skill, somebody became a driver and drives public transport, and in the process of driving public transport, you meet with a number of people across the areas your transport business takes you to. Somebody travels from here to Lagos, from Lagos to Ibadan, from Ibadan to all the states around the east and west and all that. As you are moving, you are acquiring new knowledge about the life of people. You are making new friends, and from those new friends, you are acquiring new values, you are acquiring new knowledge and all that. That's what education does for you. That is latent. It exposes you to a new variety of friends who have wider and exposes you to wider experiences along that line. Is it not through that process that there's intercultural marriage? Somebody from Igbo is marrying a Yoruba. Somebody from Yoruba is marrying an Hausa person, and all that. It's through that. So that's another role education performs for us. All right. Then education also plays this role of trying to remove our children from us. You know, there is that close, I told us, the primary social group where there is close affinity. The children are attached to their immediate family. But through the process of education, sending the child to school, the child is eventually separated from the parents. It's education that helps to separate the child from the parents and begin to prepare the child for the larger society. The first day you were sent to school, you were crying. You didn't want to go to school. You want to be with your mother or your father. You want to be at home. You were crying. You know. So education performed a magic that pulled you out and sustained you in school. That even when you became used to schooling, even on Sunday, you tell your parents to prepare you for school as a toddler. But initially you were crying. But when you eventually entered school, the teacher had a magic wand that it used to make you get used to education. That every day now you want to go to school. You know. So it is through the process of education that we were separated from our parents and then introduced to the larger society. I also said this earlier. It also is an instrument by which people could get married. It's a marriage market for the younger ones. Most people, the wives they marry today, they met them in schools. The husband you marry today, you met them in school. You know. I am also a beneficiary of that. My wife today is a student I taught in school. You know. So that's the latent function education perform. If I didn't meet her teaching in school, you know, I wouldn't have known her, and I wouldn't have. So it's a market where other things can happen. Other things can happen. All right. Education is also a steady supplier of labor to the labor market. You can be sure that every type of skill, for every type of skill, there is a prescribed level of education. For every type of skill, there is a prescribed level of education. For you to be a trader, you need certain level of education. For you to be a trader, for you to even be a driver, of course, you need that skill of. So you need the education of driving, learning how to drive. For you to be even a conductor, you must have certain basic form of education. Of course, you will give change in the vehicle now. Know how many people that entered, how much they are paying, and where they were stopping, and all that. All that is education. So for every skill, there's a prescribed type of education that you must acquire to fit in to that area. You know, for you to be a husband, you must have acquired certain knowledge about what a husband should do. Get prepared for it. If you don't have the sufficient education for that skill, you will not do well there. So education prepares us for the labor market. All right. Having said that, having explained the manifest and latent functions of education to the society, let's begin to look at the specific role of education in specific areas of society. Specific roles of education in specific areas of the society. Let's begin with education and the polity. Education and the polity. Education and the polity. Polity here means society in general, governance, political arrangement of society. Now, what does education do for society along this side? One, education creates what is called creation of political awareness. Creation of political awareness. Education plays the role of creating political awareness among the citizens. Among the citizens. And this is done along the following lines. This is done along the following line. One, learning how the political system works. Education prepares you and teaches you how the political system of your country works. Two, helping you to develop feeling about the system, which could be either positive or negative. How the political system works, it will make you know that things are going on well or going this thing is. So you see, every time one government is not doing well, you're already aware, and then you begin to express some negative feelings about what is happening. That is because you have the awareness. Education have already inculcated in you what is good and what is bad about governance. If not, you will be crying. How do you know that government have to protect lives and property if not through the process of education? How do you know that leaders have to provide us health facilities and all that if not through the process of education? So education acquaints you with knowledge of what governance is all about and makes you know when a government is doing well or not. So that's what the negative and positive aspect of governance. Education also gives you the knowledge to know whether you are capable of participating or not. You know, in the political field today, it's not everybody that have that. I don't think I can do this thing they are doing. You know, because you don't have the sufficient knowledge. Some people have that driving force because they have acquired enough education that. So in whatever form it takes, they are prepared. They are prepared. You know, because they've acquired sufficient skill on how to go about the entire political process. They have the knowledge, and all that is gotten through the process of education. So, and all this thing that education does is through the process of schooling. Through the process of schooling, where it equips the individual. So in school now, when you are taught certain subjects like social studies, civic education, government, political science, and all that, it prepares you along that line. Sometimes these courses are also offered you as elective courses, assuming you are doing sciences. They also give you this course as elective to prepare you, and that's why you sometimes see people who didn't study politics or who are not in any way did social science courses coming to participate in politics because of the awareness created in them through the process of education. We have seen medical doctors who practice politics and do well. We have seen engineers who are involved in politics and do well. All that is the other education they acquire outside what they study. You know, so that's the role education plays for the polity. Now, it's vice versa. Here we're looking at how education affects the polity, the role education plays for the polity. Let's also look at the role the polity plays for education. Those in government determines the direction of education. They make policies on education. They determine the content of education. They determine the curriculum of education. They determine the implementation of education policies. And in the process, they affect the type of education that is given. Like I told us earlier, what you are taught in school, what you are taught at home is already determined by society. So education cannot go beyond that which has already been prescribed. So the political class prescribe through the process of policy formulation the content and type of education that will be given. Apart from even formulating policies, they implement it. So they could formulate a very good policy. They could formulate a very good policy about education, but then fail to implement it. So on paper they have something that is very good, that when you see it, say, this is fantastic. But at the point of implementation, they refuse to implement. Have they not affected education? Now today in Nigeria, we are crying about the poor quality of education, poor implementation of education. Who are responsible for that? It is the polity. It is those in government. What they give you in education is what you get. Who among us who goes to church will determine what the pastor should teach? It's already provided. So what they teach you is what you must take. What they teach you is what you must take and what you must learn. Now the schools are not having facilities. Is it not because those in government have failed to provide them? They don't have enough teachers. Is it not when they employ them that they will teach? So you see the way they also affect education. So the polity affects education in a number of ways, while education also affects the polity in a number of ways. So that's why I told us earlier, they are in a link relationship. One affecting the other. Education and the economy. Now, education and national planning, they are synonymous. You plan education to achieve national development. So you see, education is used as an instrument for national development. That is why in the national policy on education, education is declared as an instrument par excellence for national development, for effective national development. So the role education plays in the economy cannot be underestimated. One, education prepares the human beings. It transforms the human beings into what is called capital assets by equipping them with skills that they will need to function in the economic sector. So the economic sector have the diverse areas that need manpower. It is education through the process of education that these human beings are transformed into human capitals and redistributed in the various sectors of the national economy for national economic development. So without education, it will be difficult for the economy to grow in all the sectors. We need medical practitioners in the health sector. We need the political class in the political angle. We need to develop them through education. We need to develop teachers through education. So all the categories of human beings are trained through the process of education for what? National development. So without education, a nation cannot develop. That is why renowned nations as we have them today, what we call developed nations, are known for the level of development they have achieved because of the education they offer their citizens. The advanced technology here today in Europe and all that is made possible through the process of education of their citizens. So the economic achievement any nation can attain is determined by the level of education their citizens have acquired. So here you cannot underestimate the role of education in economic development. Those who have failed to develop their citizens educationally will hire citizens from outside to come and develop their own society as expatriates, and that have economic implications. So So the role of education in this regard is very, very important in all the sectors. In all the sectors, even the religious sectors, we need highly educated personnel to man that area. Alright. Then on the other way around again, the economy also determines education. The economy also determines education. It is through the economic activities that education is funded. It is through economic activities that education is funded. So, without funding, education will not survive. Without funding, education will not survive. The fund we need for the construction and building of schools, provision of infrastructure, payment of teachers' salary, procurement of teaching materials, instructional materials, and all that are all made possible through the economy of this society. So if the economy does not provide enough for education, education will suffer. For example, in Nigeria, we have over the years been crying over the poor allocation, poor funding of education, poor budgetary allocations to education have been the bane of the education system in Nigeria. So you can see the role. So without education, the economy will not survive. And without the economy, education cannot be properly funded. So economy plays vital role in the development of education. Education also plays vital role in the development of the economy. So this intertwining role makes the two of them very important. Alright. Education also plays the other role of what we call social selection. Social selection. Social selection. Now, every individual born in every given family has what is called potentials, natural endowment, which God has deposited in every individual. So every individual have multiple talents which God has put in him. It is through the process of education that these multiple talents or potentials are discovered and developed. It is through the process of education that the potentials and the individual members of the society are developed. Remember, first, you were born in a family. You belong to a family. Now, through the process of education, the potentials in you are developed. When the potentials are developed, then you are selected and distributed in society. So that is why, if you move into any sector of the national economy, you will see people with different talents, working in different areas. They were all developed and selected through the process of education. Now, education will prepare you, and then you are selected to become a governor. Education prepares you, and you are selected to become a medical doctor. Education prepares you, and you are selected to become a teacher. Education prepares you, you are selected to become an engineer. Education prepares you, you are selected, you are a legislator. So you see, education prepares you by developing the potentials in you, which enables the society to now select and distribute you in accordance to the various areas that the society have demands for such skills developed by education. So that role is called education and selection. Education prepares you for selection. Alright, then we see how education and sociocultural reproduction. Education and sociocultural reproduction. Now, in every society, there are cultural values. The totality of the life of the people is called its culture. So there are cultural values that are shared by members of every given society. It could be at the local level, it could be at the national level, it could also be at the international level. You know, so the whole process is transformed through the process of education. There are cultural values today that we share and cherish today. Tomorrow, education will transform it. It may not be valuable again. It becomes obsolete. That is made possible through the process of education. You remember there was a time in Nigeria when twins were killed. But today it's an obnoxious act. Nobody practices that again. So a lot of cultures and traditions have been taught and improved upon through the process of education. So it is only education that have the capacity to do this. So apart from refining the culture and tradition, education also helps in cultural transmission. Now in Nigeria, for example, there's what is called national character. National character. Education helps to transmit national character, and it does that from generation to generation. From those yet unborn, as they are born, they are transmitted. You recall when you were a child, and recall what you are now. All that you know now, all that you believe in now, all that you aspire now, are all put into you through the process of education. Education also helped in the transmission of cultural heritage, such as norms, ideals, patterns of acceptable behavior and conduct in society. You know, in every society there are values, shared beliefs, shared ways of doing things, which is transmitted through the process of education. And you hold these things sacrosanct and strongly believe in them, and protect them and guide them, because they are put inside you through the process of education. They become part of you, and society keeps going. So that is why you see orderliness in society, because every member you will see have acquired enough of this that conducts him properly in society. So that's why you see, even when there is disorder, there is orderliness. People behave themselves. You can get to the road now and see two people fighting, and then very soon people will gather there and they sort it out. You know, through the values they have shared. All right. So it also helped to preserve social integrity, identity, and continued existence. Education helped to preserve social integrity, identity, and continued existence. The recognition you have today is a direct result of the social integrity that education has put in you, both in your family. There's what we call family name. You know, you are the son of so person. The respect you acquire as a result of that is the direct result of what education have done for people to have that value for your family and that respect for your family. You know, the prestige you have today is the direct result of the education you have acquired. The identity you have today, you are an Equatorial man, you are a Calabari person, you are from so person area. You know, that gives you identity, and all that is done through the process of I'm a Nigerian. Yes, it's education that have given you that identity to make you know that you're a Nigerian. And then it also helps for societal continuity. You know, as it is now, so shall it be. Education will always be there and keep preparing people. Then education and social change and innovation. Social change and innovation. Education has been a major instrument. Education has been a major instrument used for social change and innovation. I've given several examples about this. The way of life we live today is not the way of life we lived yesterday. Our dress pattern today is not how we dressed yesterday. The food we ate yesterday is no longer the food we eat today, and all that. A lot of innovations, a lot of changes have taken place. Today there's online teaching and learning, which wasn't there 10 years ago. So it is through the process of education that we're getting changes in ideas, changes in way of doing things, changes in cultural practices, changes in even our religious belief. A lot of changes and innovations are taking place. All is made possible through the process of education. Education also plays the role of social stratification. Social stratification. Education places us, try to classify people in society and place them according to their social class. This has both positive and negative impact. It has both positive and negative impact. Social stratification, social classification has to do with dividing members of the society into different class. Now, it also takes several forms. For example, the level and type of education you have acquired determines your status in society, determines the class you are. Now, you will recall that for those who have acquired academic education, to a certain level, can only occupy certain position, which those who do not have that level of education cannot acquire. So because you hold a first degree, that is why you can get certain level of job in government or in the society. Those who don't have are less classified. So society, through the process of education, there's a demarcation. Those people are classified. So education makes us to classify people into literate and illiterate. If you are using the class, to have the literate class and the illiterate class. We have the highly educated and moderately educated or semi-educated. So they try to classify people, and because of that classification, it brings further division of members of the society into even where we live, the type of home you live, the type of area you live. Those who are highly educated occupy high position in society, and they live in different geographical areas. So we now have the slums. We know the people that live there. Then we have government reserve area. We know the people that live there. When you mention the name of a place, it tells you the kind of people that live there. All that is done through the process of these are highly educated people. These are people who occupy certain position in society. So education helps to stratify and divide people in society. And this is the other disadvantage of education. This is the other disadvantage of education. Everybody in society is assumed to be equal and assumed to have same rights. But through the process of education, they are stratified into strata, into class. And by the class education has positioned them, it determines the level they belong to in society. And then there's a lot of differences between them and the other people in the other class. So when you tell me your level of education, so for that reason now, a lot of people want to acquire academic education because it's a means of moving you from one class to the other. It's a means of moving you from one class to the other. Now, because of the class you occupy, there are certain privileges that you enjoy, which those who didn't acquire that level of education cannot enjoy, both you and your children. Now, those who are highly educated belong to the class we call the elite class. The elite class. And because they belong to the elite class, there are certain privileges them and members of their family enjoy. For example, their children have the privilege of going to very good schools, while those in the lower class, their children cannot go to those schools. How do they achieve this? They achieve this by making the type of school their children will go to be in line or to be in line with their economic status. So the school fees paid in those schools are higher than the school fees paid in the mushroom schools. So those who are from the lower class send their children to those mushroom schools where almost nothing is taught, and then their children attend those high schools. So That arrangement further divides the society and creates inequality and creates constant conflict among members of the society. You see, education is good and bad. It's able to divide the society, classify society into groups of elites and non-elites. So now creating what we call the haves and the have-not. You know, so all those who come from the elite class, the highly educated, are the ones who are opportune to have the good things of life, and then the others are not opportune to have those kind of opportunities. You know, it is only those who are highly educated and are in certain positions that can fly the aeroplane. The poor man and their children will never near the airport. But they said the airport is built for public this thing. How many people go there? You know, you have very beautiful schools all around us. How many poor children go there? So those beautiful good schools are built for the children of the higher class, while the other schools are built for children of the lower class. So these are the other side of education. So the children of the rich, the elites, so-called highly educated, attend good schools and have quality education, while the children of the poor attend to poor schools where infrastructural facilities are not available. And in the process, education helps to further divide members of the society into different groups and try to perpetuate that. Try to keep. So it becomes difficult for people from the poor class to move to the higher class. But no matter how difficult this may appear, you can also move through the process of education. So we have eventually seen poor children from poor background scaling through and occupying a good position in society as a result of education still. Some see whether it through those poor educational facilities and they move on to occupy good position in society. Most of the people occupying prominent positions today we know in society are people from poor background. They are people from poor background who through the process of education were able to scale through. So even though education have this negative effect on society, it also have some impact by moving people from the poor background to the higher level. The person delivering this lecture is a beneficiary of education. I am from a very poor background, a checkered background, but through the process of education, I was able to move from that poor background to where I found myself today as a lecturer. So no matter the obstacles there, education will still remains an instrument that can move somebody from one social class to another social class. My dear students, I think on this note, we will be coming to the end of today's class. We have been able to prove that education and society have a symbiotic relationship, a link relationship, that they are inseparable. We are able to prove that education provides to the society economic goals, the development of society in various dimensions and various areas. It provides a literate class for the society. It inculcates values and standards. It prepares the citizens for occupational competence and then to contribute socially to the society. And then it inculcates the desired behavior in the citizens. While education does this for the society, society provides funds for education, provide infrastructure for education, build schools for education, supply the necessary manpower to education. You know, it sets the goal for education, develop policy for education, determines curriculum content of education. So these are the various ways that education and society relate. So without one, the other one cannot be there. So you can now better appreciate, understand why education should be planned for the society. That is the linked relationship, and that is the reason why education must be planned. So you are now better appreciating the social context under which education is planned, or the social context that provides us the details on which education can be planned. I want to thank you for listening to us. That brings us to the end of today's online class. As usual, as I've told us, please remain safe at home. Maintain your social distancing. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. And above all, maintain all the health prescriptions that you need to stay alive. There's no need moving out for anything except if that thing is very important. Thank you all.